Graphic Paper Products Limited. And before I introduce Mr. Kunal Shikhar to all of you, a little bit more about the topic that we'll be discussing and talking to him about, and that is forest management, responsible forest management, and livelihoods. Now, this is a topic that has taken center stage, particularly in the light of our efforts to build back a resilient, a more equitable, and a more just society. Given the magnitude, the impact, social, economic, cultural, environmental impacts that forests have, this is that one sort of key area of focus. It is a topic. It is an agenda that is multi-layered. It's got various dimensions to it, and therefore we will be discussing this topic in greater details with a set of experts at the CRB annual conference, the 8th edition of the annual conference, which is scheduled to take place between the 27th to the 29th. This particular session, which is multi-stakeholder partnerships for sustainable forest management and livelihoods, will be held on the 28th of October at 3:45. That's 3:45 p.m. You may want to pencil that in for about 1.5 hours. And we hope that this conversation today with Mr. Kunal Shikhar sort of, spikes your interest, whets your interest to sort of follow us and listen in for a sort of greater insights into the topic. The session is being curated in partnership with BIPP ISB, that is Bharati Institute of Public Policy, ISB. They've been championing this agenda for many years, and now will be sort of partnering with Center for Responsible Business to take some of their work forward. Now, these sessions really, our endeavor, our objective sort of through these sessions is really to sort of unravel and unpack and really sort of, understand better what are those business models, what are those sort of framework, socioeconomic framework conditions, what are those economic models, what are those approaches, rights-based approaches that, we can nurture and build to create responsible value chains in the forest product-based economy. So that's really the objective. And without any further ado, now I would like to introduce Mr. Kunal Shikhar to you all and invite him to take the conversation forward. Mr. Kunal Shikhar has a rich work experience spanning across geographies. He has worked with the forest-dwelling communities in Africa for timber supply chain for 7 years, in Malaysia for 6 years, in the area of sustainable forest management. In India, he's worked extensively with pulp and paper industry in wood fiber sourcing and natural resource management for 5 years. For the last 4 years, he's been engaging extensively and intensively with the farmers and the forest dependent communities in India, including the community forest rights villages in Maharashtra. Academically, he has a PGDFM from the Indian Institute of Forest Management, and at present, he's working as the General Manager, Raw Material with Built Graphic Paper Products Limited, and he's based in Balarpur, Maharashtra. So thank you so much, Mr. Kunal Shikhar, for joining us, and I really want to extend a warm welcome to you. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Nandini, for inviting me for this live session, and I'm really thankful for ISB and CRB for conducting this, because there is lots of opportunity in CFR and lots of things to learn from our experiences, and I'm very delighted to share my experiences today with you all. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you so much. And we are eagerly waiting to, we have got a good lineup of questions for you that we'd like to sort of know. Definitely. And I'll start off right away. The first one, which we would like to sort of understand a little more about is, what really is community forest rights, and how is that sort of important to a business entity or even to sort of creating these responsible value chains that we talk about?
Okay, well, Nandini, as you know, like CFR, community forest right, has its origin. It has originated from the 5th schedule of the Indian Constitution, which provides us special rights to the community who are dependent on the natural resources. forest. So there was PESA. PESA guideline was there. So through PESA, government has brought out one ordinance in 1996, which provides for the rights of the community. Okay, so this ordinance came in 2006 under CFR, and it provided two types of rights to the villagers or the forest dwelling community. One is IFR, another is CFR. IFR is individual forest rights, and CFR is the community forest rights. So basically CFR, what it does, it does the justice to the community. For the decades, they were dependent in the forest, and they were not given the rights. So it's a kind of social justice that the government has provided to the community who are living near the forest and dependent on them for their livelihoods. So that is brief about CFR, and I'd be happy for further questions on this.
Sure. So I also, like you said, that this is about a little context setting on, what CFR is. But I'm also, we'd be interested to know how is this sort of, connected to the whole business world, and why is the CFR rights important to a business entity like yours?
Okay, like before talking to the business world, I would little bit wants to talk about my company's business, so that we can relate to others. So, well, as you know, like as you have introduced myself, I'm working with Build Graphic Paper Product Limited. It's looking after the raw material. So this is a very large paper industry, one of the largest paper industry in India, which was founded way back in 1953. Balasha is in Vidarbha region of the Maharashtra. So, it's a dry states. It's a dry region where very little bit agriculture opportunity is there. So this industry was set up with the sole objective to give us meaningful and sustainable economy to the people, travel community here. Being a paper industry, it is a forest-based industry. Forest-based industry, and for raw material, it depends on the bamboo, wood sources, other. No, it is no more like a forest-based industries, because we are getting majority of our raw material through agri sources. For forest-based industry it's very less, maybe 10%. But still, this was the whole company was evolved on the context having a huge bamboo forest resource along the mill areas, in the close vicinity of the forest. So once we talk of why CFR and all, since 1953, we had agreements with the government of Maharashtra for the lease. We had a lease forest land with the government of Maharashtra, and we were harvesting bamboo under their supervision, where the local communities were basically the wage earners. They were the wage earners. But in 2010 and 11, this new ordinance CFR came in 2006, but got implemented in 2010-11. So our agreement with the Forest Department was no more extended. And our then Foreign Minister, Mr. Jairam Ramesh, came to our one village in the Gadchiroli district, Mendalekha. He handed over the transit pass to the community, and that transit pass was the symbolic of the start of CFR, I will say, in India, because Mendalekha was the first village to get the CFR rights. So he had a big transit pass booklet which was handed over. So the ownership that day, came from Forest Department to the community. And then that time we were also hugely dependent on this resource, bamboo resource, and then suddenly we don't have any agreement with the government. So we immediately made a team of CFR in our company, and we started learning about the ordinance. We studied the ordinance, and there was no clear-cut procedure that time. We moved to government authorities, talked to them, and we facilitated and motivated the tribals who are living along the community to put their claims to put their claims to the government. We did all the hand-holding then, all the hand-holdings. And we managed to get around 40-50 claims and the rights to them at that time. And from there, the story of CFR starts with us. So that is brief, like what is our company is doing with the CFR. And your question on why CFR is important. For when you say word important, I will say more than using the word important. This is the future. CFR is the future, and it has got a huge opportunity and huge scope. And when I see, like in the two districts only, Chandrapur and Gadcholi district, I see around a forest resource of 50 to 100 crores of rupees, which is not, which is being left unharvested, and is losing the working plan, is skipping the working plan. So the huge economic resource, we are foregoing the huge economic resource. So with the help of the CFR, I think there's a long way to go. Getting the first right is the first step, but still we have a long way to go. So the basic difference, like why other business organizations should also look at CFR, the number one, you have a direct connection with the community. You have direct agreement with the community. There's no administration involved in that, really no administration involved, and your decision would be very fast. And whatever decisions is also taken on the agreement will be based on the local scenario, keeping all the factors, environmental, social factors of the supply chain is very important in that. And you can have a very good win-win meaningful relationship with the community.
Right. Great. I think so. I think that's pretty. I mean, a lot of the questions, a lot of the responses that you've given to this question also sort of, sort of lead me to the next question. The next question that I have for you, and sort of in part answers also, what I wish to ask you, which is really while you talked about the business case for pursuing CFR, and that you said that very sort of emphatically that CFR is the future and the sort of the way to go forward. What might be interesting also is to know, perhaps what are some of the learnings, along the way that you could perhaps share with, with our audience today, and what might be some of the challenges, if a company or a business, sort of embarks on this journey, what would be some of those few things that you would say should be kept in mind?
Okay, see, one thing, if you see the current world geographic condition and current situation, we learned a lot in the last couple of years. There was a big pandemic. The supply chain from the far regions went more difficult. Most of our supply chain was blocked. So in these situations, being local is a one big thing, very big thing. We can source, like, see, we need bamboo. I can source it from Assam. When there was, when CFR was implemented 2010-11, we had no agreements. We started sourcing from Assam. We started sourcing from Odisha. We started even for other wood resources. We imported also sometimes. So now, if we look the current situation, when we see, like, the supply chain gets very easily affected by the outer circumstances, having a very meaningful relationship with the local community, and working with them, it gives a very clear-cut visibility and a short supply chain. So this is for all the many business entity can look forward to, rather than outsourcing the things. They could be very meaningfully involved with the community and get the assurance in their backward linkages. Okay, this is a very big thing in the business, because you are sure about your supplies. So when you talk about the challenges, well, when this ordinance came, everyone were clueless. Okay, there was no fixed, like, there was no forms or sort of things, that you fill this form, you get the rights and all those things. No one. And it was a non-priority work for the administration. It was not on the priority work. It was a non-priority work. So you have to go there, you have to motivate them. At the same time, forest department has that ownership, perception of the age-old ownership perception. Is somehow they were losing that. Okay, so all these factors were there. I will not say there was lack of the political will. I will say there are lots of political interference, and it was positive interference to get things done. In our case, so everyone was anyway. This Maharashtra was leading in this CFR, and also there was some positive way. You might not find the same. You might find it's more challenging in other parts of the country. And then there is this tribal community who don't have any kind of training in that, any kind of training in that. All this time they have been working as the wage laborers. For them, this resource is there to cut it, make the bundle, and load it in the trucks, nothing else, and get their daily wages. But no, they are the owners. They have to decide who will lead. They have to form Gram Sabhas. Forming Gram Sabha was also one, step. There are lots of steps are required, and getting approval and all, and getting their rights, putting their claims in the proper manner. So those were the few challenges that we faced. And still, I will still say we are still facing challenges. Because let's say there are around 1380 Gram Sabhas, already rights have been given. Of that, let's say for our bamboo is 24% is the bamboo forest, of that Gram Sabha. So normally 350 to 400 should be active. Right now, only 15 to 18% of the Gram Sabhas are active, for this, who is doing the business with us. So we have a huge long way to go in that.
Wow, that's super insightful, Kunal. In terms of really when you sort of outline for us the challenges, be it the the mindset change, the cultural change, sort of capacity building at various levels, community level, local administration level, and I think what most important you talked about really having that infrastructure, that support system, sort of those processes in place, right from how to fill out those claims in a proper manner to how to sort of have them submitted and follow-ups, etc. And I think what really sort of is remarkable and stood out for me was really sort of the whole ownership rights, sort of from being just wage earners to actually having equity, so which is what when we talk about responsible value chains, we talk about a just value chain, we talk about transparency, we talk about accountability, traceability, we talk about we talk about how everybody has a equity or the right sort of incentives, etc. in place. So I think on all those parameters, I think this is the one sort of model that you at your organization been able to sort of manage and implement and execute rather well. And I think these are some of the learnings that you've shared will probably inspire a lot of the other organizations to also go forward. Maybe a little bit more on, perhaps also with respect to your organization, what do you see some of the priority areas of work, maybe for your organization, and also perhaps at a more macro level for the sector? What do you think would be some of those areas that that one will need to, given the pandemic, also will need to focus to sort of keep pushing this agenda forward of community forest rights, of these kind of business models where there are stronger market linkages? So yeah, over to you.
Okay, and Nandini, correct question. So I was I wanted to speak on that also. Okay, let's say like see, when we see of the CFR and any forest resources, there are basically three kinds of supply chains. One is the social supply chain. Social supply chain, when I talk about, is like, basically the first dependent quantity, they need very small quantity of that resource for their infrastructure, like building their home, houses, making baskets and all. Second is the industrial supply chain, which is very important, like us, where this bamboo is converted into pulp and paper, and third is the power plants where this bamboo can supply and making ethanols and all. So first is social, then industrial, then one is commercial supply chain. When I talk about bamboo, so commercial supply chain is the, bamboo being used in the horticulture for stacking and all. And all these supply chains have got different kind of relationship dynamics between administration, user, and the community. So this needs to be studied in very detail. Okay. So this is the one thing. So when you talk about what you see, what I want to suggest, number one thing I want to suggest is the sustainability and the conservation aspect. See, this is commons. There's a called tragedy of commons. Tragedy of commons. What I suggest, what I want to see, it needs to move from CFR is there. They have to consider CPR, common pool resource. So there are 8 factors in the common pool resource. There should be a monitor. There should be penalties. There should be all those factors which is required. Boundaries should be very clearly demarked. Boundaries of the so that they are accountable. The Gram Sabha also needs to be accountable on the conservation sustainability of the produce, so that it can benefit to the future generations also. Traditionally, they have very, very sound, very good knowledge on that, traditionally. But it needs to be day in, day out, needs to be monitored. Like bamboo is a very fragile crop. It grows very fast, fastest growing. 30% of bamboo pool of the world is in India. And it can be very easily affected by the genomic and phenomic factors. So bamboos, we want to preserve this crop, and we want to get very, very luxuriant crop, so that it is cut timely, it is cut in a very sustainable way. All the sustainable practices that should be implied, and so that the growth of the future crops is good. So this first is that I suggest on the conservation, and second I suggest on this common pool resource that they need to follow. Third is that there is a very good income it is getting after CFR. This community is getting very good income. We have seen their children are going now far away for educations. They're educated, and the young generations taking part in the decision making. Their house structures are changing. I mean, there's overall livelihood aspect has become very good. The places where we have worked, because there's a huge value is coming to them. Their earning capacity has more than tripled what they used to get after the CFR. So whether this common resource, the fund, their extra fund they're getting, how they're utilizing it, whether it is getting in the common fund source, and who is making the decisions, all these factors needs to be learned on that. And third thing I want to say is the scalability and the volume. We cannot achieve anything, without the volume. I might be working in 20-30 gram sabhas, and first that is not the answer. For me, I should be working in 200. There are certain challenges that we are trying to overcome, but we want to work in 200-300 gram sabhas communities. And that is one case. What about other parts of the India? So we need to bring the scale up.
Absolutely. Great. I think those are very, pertinent, very important issues that you've raised. And hopefully, in our session at the conference, we will probably unpack and unravel a lot of these elements, right from scalability, volume, to further research and studying, to looking at alternative models So absolutely, it's been a delight speaking with you and, sort of getting a lot of information from you, right? From why it makes sense to, pursue CFR, what are the benefits? There are benefits for everybody, for businesses, for community, for local administration, for the environment, all. Also that, while there are a lot of challenges, if you have the right sort of systems, a systemic sort of an approach, an inclusive and participatory approach, this is, achievable and doable. And of course that, in the times that we are living in, which are very uncertain times, where there are these disruptions that are happening, CFR probably is one of the most secure ways to sort of, conduct your businesses.
Yeah,
So,
that's one of the answer.
absolutely, absolutely. So I would sort of thank you, I think, for this wonderful session that we've had. A lot of ideas that you've sort of planted, and a lot of clarifications that that you've given to us. It's been absolute pleasure, and I would just want to quickly, before I wrap up the session, just quickly want to thank all our viewers, and also sort of remind them to join us for the session on the 28th of October at quarter to 4, that's 3:45 p.m. For a more nuanced discussion on the same topic. And thank you once again, everybody, and a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Nandini.
Thank
Yeah, it was my pleasure.